He looked at the lake. He looked at Martin. "So it's just us," he said. "Just us," Martin said. Another pause. The lake made its small August sounds. A bird called once from somewhere in the pines. "Well," Owen said. He put his phone in his pocket. He picked up his bags. "I'm going to put my things in my room." He went inside. Martin sat back down on the dock. He looked at the lake. He thought about the week ahead, which had just become a significantly different week from the one he had been anticipating, in ways he was not sure he had adequate language for. Owen Henderson was his wife's brother. This was the relationship. Brother-in-law, which was a relationship defined by its context, by the marriage that had created it rather than by anything chosen. They had not chosen each other. They had found each other on either side of the same woman, Claire, who was the axis around which both of their lives had organized themselves in different ways, who was the reason they were both at this cabin and both in each other's lives and both sitting, by 7 o'clock that evening, across a kitchen table eating pasta that Martin had made from the supplies intended for 9 people. They had been in-laws for 5 years. They had the relationship of in-laws who liked each other, which was warmer than it sounded. Genuine mutual respect, the easy comfort of family occasions, the particular pleasure of a person you see 4 or 5 times a year and always find yourself glad to see. They talked about books. Owen was a librarian in Ann Arbor, had been since graduate school, and the overlap with Martin's English teaching was real and frequently gratifying. They talked about the family, about Claire and David and the parents, with the inside knowledge that long familiarity provides. They sat at the same tables at holidays and had the same conversations about sports neither of them followed, with much investment and passed the same serving dishes. This was the relationship. It was a good relationship. Martin had always liked Owen, had liked him from the first Thanksgiving, when Owen had appeared at the Columbus house quiet and somewhat separate from the holiday's general noise, and had found his way to the corner where Martin was reading and had said, without preamble, "What's the book?" He had liked him then, and had continued to like him in the specific way you like someone you see regularly and consistently find worth talking to. Nothing more than that. He had never examined it more than that. He was examining it now across the kitchen table, with 5 days of this ahead of them, on an August evening with the lake outside and the cabin around them and nowhere else to be. Not examining it in the sense of realizing something he had not known. Just noticing. Noticing with the clarity that absence of distraction provides, the clarity of a cabin with one other person in it and no noise and no obligation, that Owen Henderson was exactly the person he had always found worth talking to, and that talking to him, alone, without the family around them providing context and structure, felt like a different thing. "Tell me something," Owen said. He said it easily, the way he occasionally said things at family dinners when he wanted to shift the conversation. Martin had always found it an admirable opening. "Something about what?" Martin said. "Anything." Owen looked at his wine glass. "I drove 4 hours with my brain going in circles. I need something else to think about." "What were the circles about?" Martin said. Owen looked at him. "Something that's not resolved," he said. "Something I'm trying to figure out." He picked up his wine glass. "Tell me about what you're reading. That's always good for another few hours of thinking." Martin told him about what he was reading. Owen responded with the quality he always brought to literary conversation. Not performing enthusiasm, but actually having it. The genuine engagement of a librarian who had spent his adult life surrounded by books and had not grown tired of them. They talked for 2 hours. The wine went down. The evening went to dark. At 10 o'clock, Martin looked out the window at the lake. "Doc," he said. "Doc," Owen said. They took their glasses and went outside into the August night, which was warm and starred and had the particular quality of North Michigan at the end of summer. The smell of the pines and the water, the specific temperature of a night that has not yet turned but knows it will. The beginning of the seasonal shift that was still weeks away but could be felt already in the small hours. They sat on the dock with their feet over the water. Neither of them said anything for a while. This was, Martin understood, one of the things about Owen, the comfort of his silences. Owen was not a person who filled silence with noise. He sat in it and let it be what it was. And being beside him in silence had the quality of being beside someone who understood that some of the best things happened in the spaces between words. "It's good here," Owen said eventually. "It's always good here," Martin said. "No," Owen said. "I mean, tonight. Like this." He looked at the lake. It's good. Martin looked at the lake too. Yes, he said. It is. They sat until midnight. They went to bed. Martin lay in the dark in the room he always slept in when the family was here, the second bedroom, his and Claire's, and he thought about the week ahead and thought about Owen and thought about nothing in particular, the way you think about nothing in particular when something is organizing itself below the level of conscious thought. He slept. In the morning, he made coffee. Owen came down at 7 and sat at the kitchen table and wrapped both hands around the mug Martin had poured and looked out the kitchen window at the lake in the morning light and said, without looking at Martin, "What do you do when you know something you're not ready to do anything about?" Martin looked at him. "That depends," he said carefully, "on what the something is." Owen looked at his coffee. "Something that would change things," he said. "What kind of things?" "The arrangement of things." He paused. "The way things are organized." He looked up at Martin. "Have you ever had that? You know something true, and the truth of it is, it's good, it's the right thing, but it requires dismantling something that other people have built their lives around." Martin looked at him for a moment. "Yes," he said. "Quiet." Owen held his gaze. "What did you do?" he said. Martin looked at his coffee. "I haven't done anything yet," he said. Owen looked at him. The morning light came through the kitchen window. The lake was perfectly still. Neither of them said anything more about it. They went fishing. The week had a shape. It was not the shape of a family week, which had its own structure and obligations, and the particular social management of 9 people in a cabin, the meals and the activities, and the careful navigation of personalities and the children's needs providing a constant organizational framework. This week had no framework. It had 2 men and a lake, and 5 days, and the particular freedom and difficulty of unstructured time. They settled into it without discussing how. Mornings. Coffee at the kitchen table. Slow. The lake through the window. Owen was an early riser. Martin was not, but found himself up earlier than usual, drawn by the quality of the morning, and he did not examine this by the sound of Owen already in the kitchen. They talked over coffee with the ease of 2 people who had been talking easily for 5 years, and discovered that one-on-one, without the family around them, the ease was deeper and more particular. Afternoons. The lake. They swam or fished without much seriousness, or took out the old canoe that Warren Henderson had bought in 1967 and which had been repaired so many times that it was arguably a different canoe, though the family refused to acknowledge this. Owen paddled well. Martin had learned to paddle at this cabin and had the technique of a man who had been corrected by various Hendersons over 6 years and had incorporated all the corrections. Evenings, the porch, and then the dock. Dinner somewhere in between. The particular quality of a summer evening that has been well used and is now resting. They talked. This was the thing. The talking. Not the surface talking of family occasions, but the other kind. The kind that happens when there is time and attention and no competing obligation. They went places in conversation they had not gone in 5 years of family dinners, not because the territory had been forbidden, but because it had never had room to breathe before. Owen talked about his work. Not the catalog of it, but the meaning of it. The particular philosophy he had developed over years of librarianship, which was, every person who came through the door was looking for something, and half the art of the job was understanding that what they asked for and what they needed were sometimes different things, and the other half was figuring out how to give them both without making them feel seen through. "That's what you do too," Owen said. "Teaching." "Sometimes," Martin said, "when I'm paying enough attention." "You always pay attention," Owen said. "Claire says that about you. She says it's one of your best qualities and occasionally one of your most uncomfortable ones." Martin looked at him. "She said that?" "She said you notice things." Owen picked up his wine glass. "That you see things people think they're keeping to themselves." "She's not wrong," Martin said. Owen looked at the lake. "What do you see?" Owen said. "Right now." Martin looked at him. It was the 3rd evening. The dock, the dark, the lake. Owen was wearing a gray flannel shirt against the cooling night, his legs hanging over the dock's edge, his wine glass balanced on the weathered wood beside him. Martin looked at him and thought, "I see a man who has been circling something since he arrived and has been using the conversations to get closer to it without arriving at it." He thought, "I see someone who is careful in the same way I am careful." He thought, "I see someone I have been glad to see for 5 years and have not understood why until now." I see someone who knows the answer to his own question, Martin said. Owen looked at him sharply. What question? The one you asked the first morning, Martin said. What do you do when you know something you're not ready to do anything about? Owen was quiet. And what's the answer? He said. You wait until you're ready, Martin said. Or until waiting becomes its own kind of cost. Owen looked at the lake. And how do you know which one it is? He said. Martin looked at him. You're asking the wrong person, he said. I haven't figured that out either. They sat with that for a while. The lake was calm. An owl called from somewhere in the pines. The dock held them both, solid and old and reliable in the way of things built to last. What are you not ready to do anything about? Owen said. Martin looked at the water. Let's say I'm getting ready, he said. Owen turned to look at him. Their eyes met in the dark and held for 1 second longer than they needed to, and in that second something passed between them that was not yet named and was not yet acted on but was there, present, as real as the dock under them. Then Owen looked away. Getting ready is something, he said. It's a start, Martin said. They went inside. The fourth morning it rained. Not the light summer rain that passes quickly, but the real kind. The kind that settles in and means it. That drums on the cabin roof and turns the lake gray and sheets against the windows and makes going outside inadvisable and staying inside necessary. They were in by 8 with coffee and their books and the rain doing its work outside. The living room. The wood stove. Not necessary in August, but Owen had lit it anyway for the quality of the light. The particular warmth that a fire provides that is different from any other kind of warmth. They read on opposite ends of the couch. Not together and not separated. In the middle distance of two people sharing a space comfortably. At noon, Martin made lunch. Owen washed up. The rain continued. At 2, Owen said, Tell me about you and Claire. Martin looked up from his book. Owen met his eyes. I'm not asking what I think it sounds like I'm asking, he said quickly. I'm asking because I want to understand. He paused. You two have been together for 6 years and I have watched you be. You're good together. You're genuinely good together. And I'm trying to understand something, and it involves understanding how two people can be genuinely good together and still... He stopped. Still what? Martin said. Owen looked at the fire. Still have something unresolved, he said. Something that exists outside of the goodness. Not against it, just separate from it. Martin set down his book. He looked at Owen for a long moment. You're asking about yourself, he said. Owen looked at him. Yes, he said. I suppose I am? Martin was quiet. You're separated from Lydia, he said. It was not a question. Owen and Lydia had separated in June. Martin knew this, Claire had told him, and the family had received the information with the careful neutrality of people trying not to take sides in something they didn't fully understand. Since June, Owen confirmed. I know, Martin said. I'm sorry. It was right, Owen said. It was the right thing. We had been not right for each other for a long time, and we were both managing that, and the management became the relationship. He looked at the fire. And then I stopped being able to manage it. And I told her. And she said she'd known for a while that that I wasn't fully there. He paused. She said you've never been fully here, Owen. Even in the beginning. There was always something else. Martin was very still. Was she right? He said. Owen looked at him. Yes, he said. The fire moved. The rain came down. Owen, Martin said. Don't, Owen said. Please don't. I know what you're going to say, and I know it's true, and I need to say it in my own way and in my own time. He looked at the fire. I've been circling it for a long time. I know, Martin said. I can see that. What can you see? Owen said. He looked at Martin. Tell me what you actually see. Martin looked at him. He thought about the first Thanksgiving, Owen in the corner with the book. He thought about 5 years of holiday tables and the particular quality of their conversations, which he had always valued and which he understood now, valued for reasons he had not examined. He thought about the first morning here and what do you do when you know something? He thought about the dock. I can see, Martin said carefully, a man who has been as careful as I have been, who has managed something for about as long as I have managed something, and who came to this cabin this week with the specific intention of having the space to stop managing it. Owen looked at him. And you? Owen said. Did you come here with that intention? Martin held his gaze. No, he said honestly. I came here with the family. I had no intention of... He stopped. But I'm here. And you're here. And the rain is... He looked at the window, at the rain, at the fire, at Owen. And I'm tired, he said. I'm tired of the management. Owen was looking at him with an expression that contained everything and was saying nothing with it yet. What are you managing? Owen said. His voice was very quiet. Martin opened his mouth. Owen's phone buzzed on the coffee table. They both looked at it. Claire. Martin looked at the phone. At Owen. Owen looked at the phone. At Martin. Martin picked up the phone. He handed it to Owen. Owen answered it. Claire, he said. His voice had shifted. The smooth transition of a man moving from one register to another, from the private to the family, with the practiced ease of someone who had been doing it for a long time. Martin got up. He went to the kitchen. He stood at the kitchen window and looked at the rain on the lake and thought about Claire. About 6 years of a good marriage that was genuinely good, that had real warmth and real respect and real love, of the kind that was not diminished by the existence of anything else. He thought about what he owed her, which was honesty, which was the conversation he had not had, but which was connected to everything he had been not saying for. How long? He had not let himself count. He thought, Owen said there was always something else. He thought, Lydia saw it. He thought, Claire. He stood at the window until Owen came to the kitchen doorway. Kids are better, Owen said. She says hi. Good, Martin said. He did not turn from the window. Tell her. Martin, Owen said. He turned. Owen was in the doorway with the phone in his hand and the fire behind him and the rain on the windows, and he was looking at Martin with the expression that was not managing anything. That was the underneath of things. And it was the most complete expression Martin had seen on another person's face, and it was aimed at him without reservation. I need to walk, Owen said. In the rain, I need... He stopped. Will you come? Martin looked at him. Yes, he said. They put on their coats. They walked in the rain. They walked the perimeter of the lake. It was a path Warren Henderson had cleared in the 50s, and the family had maintained ever since. A mile and a half around the north shore that went through pine and birch and came back to the cabin from the western side. They had walked it twice already this week, in the evenings. But this was different. The rain and the gray light and the particular quality of walking in weather that was not trying to accommodate you, but was simply itself. They walked without talking for most of it, Martin thought. He thought about the thing he had been thinking about since the first morning, the thing underneath the conversations, the thing Owen had named without naming. There was always something else. He thought about the management. He thought about Claire. He thought about Claire with the full, honest attention of a man who was done pretending he wasn't thinking about her. Their marriage was good. That was true. It had always been true. He loved her. Also true. Also real. But there was a quality to his love for Claire that he had understood, if he was fully honest, for some time. It was the love of someone who is in the right place and knows it, and is grateful for it, and is not, underneath all of that, complete. There was a room in him that his marriage had not opened, a quality of feeling that was real and present and aimed. He knew this now, walking in the rain on this path around this lake, at a specific direction. He thought, I am going to have to tell her. He thought, not today. Not this week. But it is coming, and I know it is coming, and pretending otherwise is the cruelest thing I can do. He thought, what I feel is real. For Owen. It is real, and it has been real, and it is not going away. He thought, Owen is separated. He thought, Owen is my wife's brother. He thought, there is no clean version of this. They came around the western side of the lake, and the cabin appeared through the trees, the light in the windows warm and specific, and Owen stopped walking. Martin stopped. They stood on the path in the rain. I need to say something, Owen said. He was looking at the cabin. And I need to say it before we go back in there, because inside I will find a way to not say it. Martin waited. I have been... Owen stopped. He turned to face Martin. They were close on the narrow path, the rain coming down, the pines dripping around them. I have been very careful, he said, about you for 5 years. Careful in the way of someone who knows exactly what they're being careful about and has very good reasons for the carefulness. He held Martin's gaze. You are married to my sister. That is the reason. That is a real reason. It doesn't get more real than that. No, Martin said, it doesn't. And I am not. Owen's jaw was tight. I am not asking you to do anything. I am not suggesting anything. I am saying this because I have been in a cabin with you for 4 days, and the carefulness is. He stopped. I am 30 years old, and I have been careful about this for 5 years, and I left a marriage partly because I was not fully there, and the reason I was not fully there is standing in front of me in the rain. His voice was steady, and the steadiness was costing him something visible. And I need to say it, just to say it. I am not. I know what it costs. I know what it means for Claire. I know all of it. He looked at Martin directly. But I love you. I have loved you since the first Thanksgiving, and I have managed it for 5 years, and I am done being managed about it. The rain came down. Martin looked at him. He thought about everything he should say. About Claire, about the marriage, about the impossibility of the geometry, about the costs. He thought, I know all of that. He knows all of that. We both know all of that. He said, Owen. Owen said, Don't tell me I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying. I wasn't going to say that, Martin said. Owen looked at him. Then what? He said. Martin looked at him in the rain, on the path, with the cabin through the trees behind them and 5 years of careful management and 2 marriages and the whole weight of the complicated real world pressing on this moment from every side. He said, I know. 2 words. Owen held his gaze. You know, he said. I know, Martin said. Yes, I know. Owen was very still. How long? He said. Martin looked at the path, at the wet pine needles, at the lake visible through the trees. Long enough? He said. He looked up. Long enough that I have been. He stopped. Long enough that the management has been. He stopped again. He looked at Owen. I married Claire, he said. I love Claire. That is true. I know it's true, Owen said. And, Owen said. He held the word. Yes, and. They stood in the rain. The thing was out. It was between them on the path, in the rain, in the pine smell and the gray light. Not resolved, not acted on, not anything except said, which was both the most and least of what it could be. What do we do with this? Owen said. Martin looked at him. I don't know, he said honestly. I need to think, and I need to. There are conversations I need to have that are not with you, and I need to have them honestly and completely, and I know, Owen said. I know all of that. He paused. I'm not asking you to. I told you I wasn't asking you to do anything. I just needed to say it. I'm glad you said it, Martin said. Owen looked at him. Are you? He said. Yes, Martin said. I've been waiting. I didn't know I was waiting, but yes. Owen nodded slowly. We should go in, he said. We're soaked. Yes, Martin said. They went in. They did not talk about it for the rest of the evening. They made dinner and ate and sat by the fire and talked about other things, books and the family and the lake, and the conversation had the quality of 2 people who have said the true thing and are letting it exist without needing to do anything more with it tonight. But the thing existed. It was in the room. It was in every room now, and it was not going away. At midnight, Martin went to the dock. He sat in the dark with the lake in front of him and thought about Claire with the full, honest, unflinching attention that she deserved. He thought about 6 years, about the life they had built, which was real and good, about the warmth between them, which was genuine, about the room that had never opened, which was also genuine and which he had been managing for. He counted now, for the first time, honestly, for most of the marriage. He thought about what he owed her. He thought, I owe her the truth. However it comes and whatever it costs, she deserves the truth. He thought, I have been unfair to her. Not by feeling what I feel. You cannot control what you feel. But by not saying it, by managing it, by letting the management stand in for honesty. He thought, when I go back to Columbus, I have to tell her. He thought about Owen, who had said, I am done being managed about it, with the particular clarity of someone who had arrived at something after a long journey and was not turning back. He sat on the dock until 1 in the morning. He heard the cabin door. Owen sat down beside him, close. The dock was wide, but Owen sat close, The way he had sat since the first evening. The proximity that had not been addressed but which had accumulated over 5 days into something that was its own kind of statement. You couldn't sleep either, Martin said. No, Owen said. They sat. The lake was still. The rain had passed. The stars were back. I need to say something, Martin said. Say it, Owen said. Martin looked at the lake. When I go back to Columbus, he said, I am going to talk to Claire. He paused. Not about you specifically, about the thing that has been true for a while that I have been managing instead of addressing. He paused. She deserves the truth, whatever the truth costs. Owen was quiet for a moment. I know, he said. I know that. I'm not asking you to. I know you're not asking, Martin said. I'm telling you because it's true and because you told me a true thing today and it deserves a true thing back. He looked at Owen. Whatever happens after that, I don't know. I can't know. There are things that have to be addressed first. Honestly, properly. He paused. But I'm not going to pretend I don't know what I know. Owen looked at him. What do you know? He said. Quiet. Martin held his gaze. I know that this week has been the most. He stopped. He tried again. I know that sitting on this dock with you is the most at home I have felt in a long time. He paused. And I know what that means. And I know it's complicated. And I know it's going to cost things. He looked at the water. I know all of it. Owen was quiet for a long time. Then he said very quietly, Okay, one word, full. They sat on the dock until 2 in the morning. Neither of them moved closer. Neither of them moved away. The lake was still around them, the stars above it, the pine smell in the dark, the particular quality of a place that holds things, that has always held things, the things families bring to it and leave there, the things said and unsaid on docks at midnight, the weight of true things placed carefully on weathered wood. At 2 o'clock, Owen said, We should sleep. Yes, Martin said. Neither of them moved immediately. Then Owen stood. He held out his hand. Martin looked at it. He took it. Owen pulled him up from the dock, and they stood close in the dark for a moment, hands still joined, the lake behind them. And Owen looked at him with everything he had said in the rain on the path and everything he had not said on the dock, and Martin looked back with the same fullness and neither of them said a word. Owen let go. He walked back to the cabin. Martin stood on the dock for another minute. Then he followed. He lay in the dark of the second bedroom and stared at the ceiling and thought, Tomorrow is the last day. He thought, I don't want it to be the last day. He thought, I know what I have to do when I get home. He slept finally at 4. The last day was Saturday. They were due back in Columbus on Sunday morning. Both of them, separate cars, the same 6-hour drive in reverse. Saturday was what remained, and both of them woke knowing it was what remained. And the morning had that quality, the quality of a last morning, which is both the saddest and the most present of all mornings, the one where everything is noticed because it is the last time. Martin was up at 6. Owen was already in the kitchen. Coffee, already made. Owen at the kitchen table with his book, which he was not reading. He looked up when Martin came in. Morning, Martin said. Morning, Owen said. Martin poured his coffee. He sat at the table, the angle of proximity, close, the way they had been all week. Owen looked at his book. At the lake. At Martin. I've been thinking, Owen said. About what? About what happens when we leave here. He held his coffee cup in both hands. We go back to Columbus, to the family, to everything is the same except that we've said what we said. He looked at Martin. Is it the same? No, Martin said. It can't be the same. No, Owen said. It can't. He paused. I need you to know, whatever you decide, whatever happens with Claire, however that, I need you to know that I am not going anywhere. I'm not going to make this. I'm not going to make the family thing difficult. I'm not going to. He stopped. I said what I said because it was true and because I needed to say it, not because I expected something in return. Martin looked at him. Owen, he said. I mean it, Owen said. I know what you have to do. I know the conversations you have to have. And I know those conversations they're yours to have, not mine. And I know they might not end the way. He stopped himself. He looked at the lake. I just need you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I know that, Martin said. Do you? You've been not going anywhere for 5 years, Martin said. I know that about you. Owen looked at him. The morning light was coming through the kitchen window. The August morning, the last one. The lake was the blue of early morning, the particular blue that Martin had been looking at all week and would remember, he knew, for the rest of his life as the color of this week. "Can I say something?" Martin said. "Please," Owen said. "When I have the conversation I need to have—" He paused. He chose his words with the precision of an English teacher who understood that the right word and the almost right word were different things. "When I've done what I need to do honestly and properly, I want to know where you are. I want to be able to— I want there to be a possibility of—" He stopped. He looked at Owen. "I don't want to lose this." Owen looked at him. "This," he said. "Yes, this." Martin gestured between them, a helpless gesture, the gesture of someone pointing at what language has not quite reached. "Whatever this is. Whatever it has been this week. The dock and the rain and the way you say a thing, and I already know the second half of it. The way we've been—" He stopped. "I don't want to go back to 4 times a year at family dinners. I want to know that what's on the other side of the conversations I need to have is that you're there." Owen was very still. "I'm there," he said. "You don't know what I'll—" "Martin." Owen set down his coffee cup. He looked at him with the full, unguarded attention of the dock, of the rain on the path. "I have been there for 5 years. I will be there after whatever conversations you need to have. I will be there." He paused. "That is not going to be the problem." "What is?" Martin said. Owen looked at him. "Patience," Owen said. "That's going to be the problem. I have been patient for 5 years and I have—" He stopped. He almost smiled. The almost smile that had been appearing all week. The one that was brief and warm and specifically his. "I will be patient. I am making a commitment to patience right now at this kitchen table, in front of this lake, on the last morning." He held Martin's gaze. "But you should know that I am a librarian, and librarians are systematic, and I have been very systematic about waiting for the right moment to return to a thing, and I am running out of system." Martin looked at him. "Running out of system," he said. "I am going to be patient," Owen said. "I am telling you it is going to require effort." Martin almost smiled himself. "I appreciate the honesty." "I am a librarian," Owen said. "Honesty in cataloging is essential." "Is that what this is? Cataloging?" 5 years of cataloging," Owen said. "Very thorough index." They looked at each other. The almost smiles settled into something fuller, briefer. Not quite laughter, something warmer than that. The particular warmth of 2 people who have just discovered that they can be funny together on the last morning of a week that has been many things and is still being those things. Then Owen's face settled back into the careful, serious, fully present expression. "Martin," he said. "I know," Martin said. "One thing," Owen said. "Before we spend the day before the last day is the last day." He looked at his coffee cup, at the lake, at Martin. "Do you know? I'm not asking for a promise. Not asking for anything. I just want to know if you know." Martin looked at him. "Yes," he said. "I know." Owen held his gaze for a long moment. "All right," he said. "Quiet. Everything in it." They finished their coffee. They spent the last day the way the week had been spent. The lake and the porch and the dock and the food they made together in the kitchen with the ease of people who had learned each other's rhythms and did not need to discuss them. They talked and were silent and talked again. They took the canoe out one last time and Owen paddled, and Martin let the paddle rest and watched the shoreline and thought about what he was going back to and what he was going to do about it and felt, underneath all of the complicated, the specific clarity of a man who has stopped lying to himself. At dinner, Owen opened the last bottle of wine from the supplies intended for 9 people. "To Warren Henderson," he said, raising his glass. "Who built this dock in 1954 and has no idea what it has witnessed." Martin raised his glass. "To Warren Henderson." They drank. "And to next year," Owen said. Martin looked at him. "To next year," he said. Owen held his gaze. "To next year," he said again, with the weight of something that was both a toast and a promise and a question all at once. The dialogue that means 2 things, every syllable carrying more than its surface. Martin held his gaze and said, "Next year. The wine. The lake out the window. The last evening settling in around them. After dinner, the dock. They had been here every evening, and this was the last evening, and the dock received them the way it always did. Solid and weathered and entirely without agenda. The old wood under them, the lake in front of them, the stars coming in above. Owen was close, closer than necessary. The proximity that had accumulated all week and was not going to be pretended otherwise tonight. Martin looked at the water. He thought about the drive home tomorrow, about Claire waiting in Columbus, about the conversation he had decided to have with the honesty it required, about what was on the other side of it. He couldn't know. He could only know that the other side of it existed and that Owen had said, "I'm there," with the steadiness of a man who kept his word. He thought, "I have been afraid of this for 5 years, of knowing it and saying it, and all the costs of saying it." He thought, "I am not afraid of it tonight." He looked at Owen. Owen was looking at the lake. "Owen," he said. Owen turned. His name in Martin's voice. The particular quality of it, the specific softness that had been in it all week, and which Martin was no longer pretending was ordinary. "Tell me something," Martin said. "Something true." Owen looked at him. "I told you the truest thing I know," Owen said. "In the rain yesterday." "Tell me something else," Martin said. "Something you haven't said." Owen looked at the lake, at the stars, at Martin. He said, "I have been happier this week than I have been in years, in this cabin, with you." He said it plainly. Not because of what was said or not said, just because of this. The lake and the coffee and the conversations and... He stopped. He looked at Martin with the full, open, entirely unmanaged expression. "I didn't know I could feel this easy with someone. I had forgotten what easy felt like." Martin looked at him. He felt the sentence land. "I had forgotten what easy felt like," and felt it resonate in him with the particular resonance of a thing that is true for you too, but that you needed to hear said aloud to recognize. "I know," Martin said. "Do you feel it too?" Owen said. "The easy." "Yes," Martin said. "That's exactly what it is. That's the word." They sat with that. The dock was very still. The lake was very still. The stars above the North Michigan pines were the stars of a clear August night, dense and specific. The particular geography of this sky that both of them had been looking at all week, and which was different from the Columbus sky in a way that was partly latitude and partly the absence of city light, and partly, Martin understood this now, the quality of what had been happening under it. "I don't want to drive back tomorrow," Owen said. "I know," Martin said, "but we have to." "Yes." "And you have things to do." "Yes." "And I have things to..." Owen stopped. "I have to figure out where I'm living, actually. Lydia and I, we're still sorting the apartment." He paused. "I might be in Ann Arbor. I might not be." Martin looked at him. "Where are you thinking of going?" he said. Owen looked at him. "I haven't decided," he said. "I've been deciding for a while and I haven't landed anywhere yet." He paused. "I've been waiting to see how some things resolved before I decided." "What things?" Martin said. Owen held his gaze. "You know what things," he said. Martin looked at him. At Owen, in the dark, on the dock, in the last hour of the last night, with everything they had said and everything still ahead of them and the lake all around them and the dock solid under them. And he felt, with a completeness that was startling in its steadiness, not the fear he had been expecting, but something on the other side of fear. Something like the thing Owen had named. "Easy." "Owen," he said. "Martin," Owen said. His voice when he said the name, the specific quality, the particular softness of it, was the same as the hook of this story, the voice at the beginning, the voice that had finally found the register it had always been moving toward. "I'm going to go back to Columbus," Martin said, "and I'm going to do what I need to do, honestly, completely, however long it takes." He paused. "And I need you to know that the reason I'm doing it honestly and completely it's not only because Claire deserves it, it's because..." He stopped. He looked at the lake. "It's because I want to be free to tell you something," he said. "And I can't tell you that something honestly until I've done the other thing honestly first." Owen was very still. "What's the something?" he said. "Quiet." Martin looked at him. He held Owen's gaze in the August dark, on the Henderson family dock, in the last minute of the last night, with 30 years of future stretching out ahead of them and all the complicated real costs of what they were and all the specific simple truth of what they felt. Both of those things true at once, neither canceling the other. He said, "You'll know when I tell you?" Owen looked at him. He almost smiled. "Promise?" he said. "Promise," Martin said. Owen looked at the lake. He nodded once. "Drive safe tomorrow," he said. "You too," Martin said. They sat until the stars moved. He told Claire in September. Not in September. He started in September. It was not a single conversation, but the kind of reckoning that happens in stages, that requires multiple conversations over multiple evenings, each one going further than the last, each one requiring more from both of them. Claire was a Henderson. She had her mother's perceptiveness and her father's directness, and the particular quality of honesty that the family had in its bones. And she met what Martin told her with a fullness of attention that he had always loved about her, and which was, in this context, both easier and harder than any other response could have been. She cried. He cried. They were honest with each other in a way they had not quite been before, which was both the most painful and the most intimate thing that had happened between them. She said, I've known for a while that something was held back. I didn't know what it was. He said, I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. She said, don't be sorry for the whole thing. Be sorry for the time it cost us both. He was sorry for the time. They were careful with each other through the fall. Careful and honest, which was its own kind of love, the love of two people who had chosen each other genuinely and who were now navigating the truth of what was real and what was not, and what came next. The marriage ended finally in November, in the particular way of something that ends cleanly when both people have decided to be clean about it, with grief and with respect, and with the knowledge that grief and respect were both exactly right. He called Owen in December, not from Columbus. He had driven to Ann Arbor, where Owen was, where Owen had ended up after deciding that Ann Arbor was where he was deciding to be, which Martin had understood when Owen told him in October to be information about more than geography. He drove to Ann Arbor in December, and he parked outside the apartment Owen was renting on the north side of the city, near the university, near the library where he worked, near the coffee shop he had mentioned in 3 separate phone calls over the fall as the place where he went when he needed to think. He got out of the car. He knocked on Owen's door. Owen answered. He was in his flannel shirt, the gray one from the cabin week. He had a book in his hand with his thumb in the place. He looked at Martin on the doorstep in the December cold, and his expression moved through something and settled. You drove from Columbus, he said. 6 hours, Martin said. I needed to tell you something in person. Owen looked at him. He stepped back. He held the door open. Martin came in. The apartment was Owen. Books everywhere, organized with the particular systematic quality of a librarian who could not turn it off at home, warm and specific and entirely itself. A lamp in the corner. The smell of coffee. A plant on the windowsill that was the same plant Martin somehow knew that Owen had described once at a holiday dinner, the one he'd had since graduate school. Owen set the book on the table. He turned. They stood in the apartment close. The proximity that had been all week at the cabin and that was here now, in December, in Ann Arbor, in the lamplight. Tell me, Owen said. Martin looked at him. He thought about the dock and the promise. You'll know when I tell you. He thought about September and November and the 6-hour drive and everything that had been done honestly, finally, with the full cost paid. He thought, this is the sentence. The one that has been in me since the first Thanksgiving and has been waiting for the room to say it in. He said, you are the most important person in my life. Not I love you, though that was also true and would also be said. Not I want to be with you, though that was true and would be addressed. But this, the sentence that had the whole weight of it, the 5 years and the cabin week and the September conversations and the December drive, the sentence that went back to the first Thanksgiving and the corner with the book and what's the book and arrived here, in an Ann Arbor apartment, in the lamplight, finally said in the open where it could be received. You are the most important person in my life. Owen looked at him. He did not say anything for a moment. He reached out. He put his hand on Martin's face, gently, completely, the touch of someone receiving something they have been waiting for and are not going to rush. Martin held very still. I know, Owen said. You are mine. They stood in the apartment in the December evening, close, in the lamplight, with the books around them and the coffee smell and the plant on the windowsill, and everything that had been carried finally set down. This is what the following August becomes. It becomes the year they both go back to the cabin, not as brothers-in-law. That was over. And the renegotiation of the family relationships had been the hardest winter of both their lives, long and honest, and sometimes painful and ultimately, with the particular grace of a family that had honesty in its bones, okay? Not simple, not without cost. Okay. They drove up separately on a Sunday and arrived within an hour of each other and stood in the parking area of the Henderson family cabin and looked at the lake. Owen said, "It's the same." Martin said, "Mostly." Owen said, "The dock." "The dock," Martin agreed. They unloaded the cars. That evening, after dinner, they went to the dock. The August dark, the lake, the stars above the North Michigan pines. The same dock that Warren Henderson had built in 1954 and that had been holding people and their things, their caught fish and their family arguments and their silences and their unfinished sentences, for 70 years without complaint. They sat, close, Owen's shoulder against Martin's. The contact simple and complete, the contact of people who are exactly where they belong. Martin looked at the lake. He thought about last August, the rain on the path, the conversation in the kitchen, the name said quietly in the dark. He thought, "A year ago I sat on this dock and did not know what I was about to know." He thought, "I know now." Owen said nothing. He did not need to. The lake was still around them, and the stars were out, and the dock was solid under them, and the Henderson family cabin was warm behind them with its light in the windows, and the night had the quality of something that had always been heading here. That had been heading here through 5 years and a cabin week, and a September and a November and a December drive, and a winter that was hard and worth it, and had arrived. Owen put his hand on Martin's. Martin turned his hand over. They held on. The lake, the dock, the stars, the particular quiet of two people who have finally stopped carrying something and are resting in the warmth of having set it down. Somewhere in the pines, the owl called. Neither of them moved. They did not need to move. They were already exactly where they were. It was the last night, and we were sitting on the dock in the dark with our feet not quite touching the water, and he said my name so quietly I almost didn't hear it over the lake. But I heard it. I had been hearing him say my name differently for 7 days. The particular way it had changed, the way a word changes when it starts to mean more than it used to. And I had been pretending not to notice, the way you pretend not to notice the thing that is going to change everything. He said my name. I looked at him. The lake was very still, but the story begins earlier. The Henderson family cabin had been in existence in one form or another since 1954. That was the year Warren Henderson, grandfather, patriarch, a man who had survived the war and come home to Ohio with the particular purposefulness of someone who had decided that peacetime was not going to be wasted, had bought 40 acres on the north shore of Lake Aldrin in Michigan's Lower Peninsula and built, with his own hands over 2 summers, the structure that the family still called the cabin, despite the fact that it had been substantially renovated 3 times and now contained 4 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a wood stove in the living room that was more aesthetic than necessary, and a dock that Warren's son had rebuilt in 1989 and which still held. The cabin was the Henderson family's primary inheritance. Not the most valuable, perhaps. There was a house in Columbus, and various accounts, and the accumulated substance of 3 generations of careful living. But the most meaningful, in the way that places accumulate meaning that objects cannot quite manage. Every Henderson of the last 3 generations had spent summers there, had learned to swim off that dock, had sat around that fire, had experienced the particular compression of family that happens when you put people together in a limited space with nowhere else to go and nothing required of them except presence. It was the last week of August. It was supposed to be the whole family, Robert and Patricia Henderson and their adult children, which meant their daughter Claire and her husband Martin, and their son David and his wife Rachel, and assorted grandchildren, and Patricia's sister June, who came every year, and who was essential to the week's social ecosystem in ways that were difficult to specify but deeply felt. 9 people. The cabin comfortably held 10. What had actually arrived on a Sunday afternoon in the last week of August was 2. The cancellations had come in waves, with the particular chaos of family logistics in motion. Robert's back, which had been a problem since May, and had become, the Thursday before departure, a genuine medical situation requiring rest and not a 6-hour drive and a week of sleeping on the cabin's second-best mattress. Patricia had stayed with him, of course. David and Rachel's younger child had the kind of fever that pediatricians say is probably nothing, and parents cannot treat as nothing, so they had stayed in Columbus. June had a conflict that had been there since June, but that she had been planning to manage around until she couldn't. Claire's children, 2 of them, 7 and 10, had both come down with the same thing as David's child the day before, which left Claire in Columbus with 2 sick kids and a husband who was already at the cabin. Martin Reed had driven up alone on Sunday morning, before the cascade of cancellations had completed itself. He had been in the car for 4 hours before his phone produced, in rapid succession, the text that made it clear that the family week had become something else entirely. He had kept driving. He had arrived at the cabin at 2 in the afternoon and stood in the parking area and looked at the lake and thought, I will stay anyway. He was 34 years old. He was a high school English teacher in Columbus who spent his summers the way teachers spent them, productively but without structure, reading and thinking and doing the projects that the school year didn't leave room for. He had been coming to this cabin for 6 years since he and Claire had started dating, and he had a genuine love for the place that was his own, not borrowed from the family that had given him access to it. The lake and the trees and the particular quality of the North Michigan air were real to him independently of the Hendersons. He had brought enough food for 9 people. He was going to be here alone. He started unloading the car. Off. The second car arrived at 4:30. Martin was on the dock when he heard it. He had been sitting there since 3, in the particular piece of a lake in late August, with the afternoon light going golden on the water and the only sounds the water and the trees and the occasional cry of something overhead. He heard tires on the gravel and turned. The car was a gray Subaru that he recognized before he registered recognizing it. He stood up. Owen Henderson came around the side of the car with a bag over each shoulder and the expression of a man who had been driving alone for a long time and had been thinking about something the entire time and had not resolved it. He was 30 years old, 4 years younger than Martin, with the quality of the Henderson family that was most evident in their son. The dark eyes, the unhurried movement, the particular combination of reserve and warmth that you had to be patient to get to, but which, once you had access to it, was the best thing about being in their company. He looked at the cabin, at the dock, at Martin standing on the dock. He stopped. Martin, he said. He said it with the specific intonation of someone encountering the unexpected and processing the implications in real time. Owen, Martin said. A pause. Where is everyone? Owen said. You didn't get the messages? Martin said. Owen looked at his phone. He looked at it with the expression of a man who had put his phone on Do Not Disturb 4 hours ago because he had needed 4 hours of silence and had apparently gotten more than he bargained for in terms of missed information. He read the messages.